Hey, what's up, guys? TJ here with Spartacus MMA. UFC Fight Night Vegas 86 just ended, and we're going to do a little recap for you. What can I say? It was certainly a fight night. That's for sure. That's for sure. This card was top heavy. We knew that coming in, and that's exactly what it turned out to be. I'm going to go through the whole card, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the prelims because they were not, there really wasn't much to talk about, you know. It was, to be honest with you, it was a little below what I would expect of of even a fight night, you know. Also, I mean, I am sick and tired of the Apex. I'm grateful it's a thing. During the lockdown, when everyone else wasn't doing anything, at least we could watch fights. You know, it was great for that. But get rid of it already. I don't know if it's a money thing or what. I'm sure taking the whole production on the road is a hassle, but you know, Jack Hermansson versus Joe PYFER would certainly sell out an arena in Cincinnati, Ohio, or, you know, some smaller city, Buffalo, New York, Rochester, New York, some place like this where people would be more than happy to go out on a Saturday night and watch UFC level fights and cheer. And here it's a fight night card, so you're going to have a lot of prospects, a lot of up-and-coming guys. Let's give them, you know, they worked their ass off to get to this level. Let's give them what they deserve and have some fans cheering for them. When you get a knockout, you could hear the cheers. You get a walkout song, you know? Like, I'm just so sick of the Apex. It is just, but, you know, I don't know what to say. They must be making money. You would think they would want to sell out an arena, you know, sell 18,000 tickets or whatever it is, and I'm not saying they have to completely disassemble it and never have a fight there again, but you know, maybe once a month have a Apex card, once every 2 months, but every single fight night is in the Apex? Come on. All right, well, let's get started with the prelims. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about these because there's not much to talk about. We're going to start off with a no contest. Daniel Marcos against Aoriqileng. Now, low-level MMA, you know, again, these guys are fighting in the UFC, so it's not super low level, but you certainly can't call it high level. And I mean, the second round was just a nut kicking competition that, depending on how you look at it, Daniel Marcos won. He kicked Aoriqileng in the nuts and he couldn't continue. And that was it. We have a no contest. Then we move on to Zach Puga and Bogdan Gostov. Now, forgive me with the pronunciations. One thing, and this reflects in my betting slip tonight, I did not do a lot of homework for this fight night card. Among other things, I've been putting some time in. We have 298 coming up next week, which I'm super excited for. So at this point, I'm allotting the time that I can allot to YouTube, and I want to, you know, put a little more time into the bigger cards, you know, the pay-per-views and stuff. So I didn't do a lot of research on this card, as I said. So, and I'm not very crisp with the names, so, you know, forgive me a little bit. Anyway, the fight started. Pauga seemed like the better fighter, you know. His footwork was better. His defense was better. His strikes were hitting their mark more consistently, but he doesn't have a chin. Gustaf lands a big shot. It was a first-round TKO. You know, good on him. Moving on, Jeremiah Wells, Max Griffin. Again, another not high-level MMA fight. This was, I mean, it was close very back and forth. Jeremiah Wells couldn't land a takedown. You know, he tried a few times. Griffin turned it up in the third round, and he ended up getting a decision. So, again, not very high level, but it's better than not watching fights at all, I guess. So, then moving on, we have the Brown Bear, Devin Clark versus Marcin Prachnio. Again, not top tier MMA, but it was a fight. What can I say? It was just sloppy. They were both super tired. Again, the Brown Bear couldn't land a takedown, so Prachnio pulled it out. He gets a decision, and there's really I wish I had more to say about these fights, but I'm watching them. I want to take notes, and there's just really nothing happening, So, like I said, we're just going to breeze through these, and then there is plenty to talk about on the main card. So that's where we'll spend the meat of this video. Next, you guys know how I feel about women's MMA. Not a big fan. We have Luma Lukbunmi versus Bruna Brazil, and hey, what do you know? Another absolutely boring snooze fest garbage fight. I mean, neither fighter could hurt each other. It was pity patter shots. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to just dog women's MMA right now. If you've watched any of my videos or live feeds, you know how I feel about it, and that's exactly how I feel about this. Luma won by decision. Nobody cares. Now we have a little more exciting. We have another, I don't know how to say the first name, but Oki is his last name, fighting out of Africa against Timothy Kiumba. Good fight. Kiumba took this on, forgive me again, I didn't do much research for this, but I think they said 6 days notice. And Oki looked like the clearly better bigger fighter in this, and his striking was clearly better. The little bit of time this fight was spent on the mat, Kiumba looked decent. He looked like he had a chance, but Oki pulled out. I think that's how you say it, Oki. I didn't write down the vernacular, so be patient with me if you're a pronunciation snob. But Oki pulls out a split decision. I gave it to him unanimous, but the judges saw it different. And then, so moving on from there, we have Carlos Prates versus Trevin Giles. So it was a very slow first round. Then finally we get some action. Prates lands a huge straight left and knocks Trevin out cold. It was not much to say about it. Like I said, it was a slow first round, and lands that big punch in the second, and finally now we're starting to build some heat, build some steam, get a little heat going, starting to get into a card. Next, I believe, is, I'm just hesitant here because I have my order mixed up, but next we have Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, so I always root for the jiu-jitsu fighter. And I actually had Vieira. I had him by first round submission on DraftKings, and I avoided the bet. I'm like, I don't know. Armen can put up a fight. I wasn't very confident in the pick, obviously. I avoided it, and what do you know? Rodolfo Vieira lands his takedown. As soon as he got the takedown, it was over. Petrosyan had nothing for him. I mean, he is a top-level black belt jiu-jitsu competitor, and there wasn't anything Petrosyan was going to do. He moved from the half guard to mount. From the mount, he slipped off to the side with a head and arm and squeezed him out. I mean, it looked like Petrosian was going out. He tapped very lightly. I think for a second it looked like he was going to try and argue the fact that he tapped, but I mean, you got Rodolfo Vieira with a fully sunken head and arm. The fight's over, you know? So right from there, we're rolling. Next, now we got some fights. Now we got Brad Tavares against RoboCop. Gregory Rodriguez. Great fight. Back and forth. These guys are landing big shots. I had a bet on this one. I had RoboCop in a parlayed with some other stuff. And great fight. Brad Tavares can take a shot. And so can Rodriguez. Both landing big shots, back and forth. The third round starts. RoboCop lands an absolute bomb. I believe it was a straight right. Knocks Brad Tavares to the mat. Finishes him off. What can I say? Third round knockout. The guy's an absolute beast. From the neck down, he's built like a Greek god, but he has the face of a 50-year-old. I don't know what to say. How old is he? Let's see here. I have Tapology pulled up right now. Rodolfo Vieira. I don't know. From the neck up, the guy's 48 years old. So, let's see if I can pull up his age here. He's 34. He's 34. He has the body of a... Oh, nope. Wrong guy here. Man, I love being able to pull up Tapology now. Before, I was just doing this straight with the camera and my notes and, you know, going from there. And then if I got tripped up or if I wanted to look up something like this, like how old is RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez, you know, I would just basically guessing. But right now, let's see here. I have Tapology pulled up. He's 31 years old. He has the body of a 31-year-old and, like I said, the face of a 50-year-old. But the dude's an absolute beast. I don't know if I ever see him being champ. Actually, I don't ever see him being champ. But he very well, you know, could make his way into the top 5 and have a full career out of this. I mean, people don't realize the amount of fighters that make it to the UFC is a tiny percentage of the fighters in the world, you know? And then the guys, that's why it's such a shame to have these Apex cards, because the vast majority of UFC fighters aren't going to have a career in the UFC. They're going to have a few fights, you know? And if you only have 3 or 4 fights and they're all in the Apex, I mean, come on. What did you dedicate your life to, you know? Not once did you get to walk out to a crowd playing your walkout song, you know? Get to have Daniel Cormier interview you in the ring and everyone's cheering and your wife and your mom and your whoever else got to come watch you fight, you know? So, all right, moving on, guys. Now we have Ihor Potieria versus Robert Brejczyk out of Poland. Brejczyk had a great first round. Let me see what I have for my notes here. He looked absolutely excellent in the first round. He was landing the better shots. His footwork was better. Ihor looked like he was getting outclassed, like he didn't have the power to match Brejczyk, which he didn't in the first round. And it looked like he was going to start to walk away with the fight. Then he eye pokes him. That it didn't look that bad, but I'm not Ihor. I don't know what it felt like. So he gets the eye poke. Then later on, same round, he goes for a body shot, and Potieria down blocks the shot, and it goes right into his nuts. And from there, it was like it was almost like Braychek was a different fighter after that. He finished out the first round decent, but it was like something changed. So second round starts. Braychek had a good start to the second round. Poterius starts to build confidence, and all of a sudden he's got his hands down. He starts to land that jab. He's using his length, his reach. He's reaching Braychek. He's keeping him at the end of his jab, fighting with his hands down, fighting like Ihor Potieria likes to fight, real loose. And then he goes for some goofy spinning, I don't even know what that was, like a breakdance move, just disrespecting Braychek, and he had nothing for it. It was like Braychek was prepared for a kickboxing fight. He didn't, the opportunities that he had to grapple, he totally disengaged from them and just backed up and just wanted to strike. I'm not sure what his earlier, how his earlier fights ended, but it seemed like he was used to winning by knockout. And the farther the fight went on, the less confident he got, and the more confident Ihor got, and then he just started to piece him up, walk away with the fight. Like I said, it seemed like Braychek could have mixed in some grappling, slowing Ihor down, fighting inside, making it a dirty type boxing match, but he didn't want anything to do with that. It looked like he had his heart set on winning this fight with a clean knockout, and if he couldn't do that, then he wasn't going to win, and that's exactly what happened. Ihor got the unanimous decision win, which he rightfully deserved. He won 2 rounds to 1, and good for him. Big win for the Ukrainian guys. Now, here we go. Dan 50K Ige versus Andre Touchy-Feely. I mean, I had Dan Ige decision no action bet. I thought that his power was something that Touchy-Feely wouldn't be able to handle, and that's exactly what happened. Ige fought the perfect fight. He was either all the way out or all the way in. When he was all the way out, even the added length that Andre Feely had really didn't matter, and then he just lands an absolute atomic bomb and completely flatlines Andre. He followed up with one more shot from the ground that was completely unnecessary. I mean, he was out cold. Dan Ige lives up to his nickname, 50K Ige. Give him the knockout win bonus. What more can you say about that? I love Andre Feely. He's a great fighter. Guy's been around for a long time. I feel like... Okay, yeah, sorry guys. I totally skipped the Michael Johnson fight. I'll go back to that after this. I thought I was missing something. But, yeah, we have Dan Ige sits at... He's 18-7 now. I mean, we know what he is. I don't think he's ever going to be the featherweight champ, but he's going to be that perennial top 5 guy, always giving us exciting fights. He could headline a fight night card, It's just good stuff, It was absolutely what everyone expected, and if you bet on Dan Ige, you walked away with some money. What can I say? It was this was a top-heavy card, and we thought that coming in, and that's exactly what it turned out to be, So I'm going to go back right now and talk about this Michael Johnson-Darius Flowers fight. For me, it was one of the first, all right, this is high-level MMA, all right? You have Michael Johnson's been in there with the absolute best of the best. He's been in the UFC for 13 years. He is your quintessential UFC fighter. This is what the guy does. Brad Flowers has or I'm sorry, what did I say? Brett? Darius Flowers has, I think he's like 10-0 in boxing or something like that. And Michael Johnson was just the better fighter, outclassed them all 3 rounds. I didn't give any rounds to Flowers. Johnson was beating him on the feet. He was beating him on the mat. He owned him. He was the better fighter. Yeah, I had halfway through the fight. It seemed like right at the 2:30-minute mark of the second round, Michael Johnson was just found his groove and did his thing. You know, he was landing the bigger shots. He was mixing it up. He was taking them down. He's just another level. There's really not too much to say more on that fight. I mean, it is kind of exactly what I expected out of that. I didn't have a bet going into that one. I was just because you don't know with an aging guy like Michael Johnson, you know, is this the fight that's going to put him over the hill? I didn't know if Darius was going to land that big right shot that puts him down, but not yet. Michael Johnson is still still in it and doing his thing with the best of them. So here we go. This is what everyone came for. Jack Hermansson against Joe PYFER. The main event. Body bags Joe PYFER against Jack Hermansson. This is not how I saw the fight playing out. I made a dedicated video just to this fight. I mean, Jack Hermansson is your stereotypical, quintessential gatekeeper. I think he's at the height of his potential right now. He was ranked number 11 going into this fight. I think he'll break the top 10. He'll probably be ranked 10 now. And if you can beat him, you're elite. And if this was a 3-round fight, I think we'd be saying, you know what, Joe PYFER, he is what he thought he was. He's elite, but that's not how it worked out. This wasn't a 3-round fight. It was a 5-round fight. And Joe PYFER's not elite yet. Now, the UFC is pushing him very hard. Some commentary I heard after the fight, the fact that Joe PYFER, you know, got his interview, they still want to keep his face on there. The guy was on Joe Rogan, you know, he's all over MMA YouTube. We all know his story. He comes from the gutter, you know. He is that fighter. He's that guy. When you say, you know, it's the saying is in boxing, it's hard to put in your road work when you sleep in satin sheets. It means, like, you know, when you're at the top and you have money, it's hard to put in that extra work that these guys like Joe PYFER are going to put in. And I think he needs to put in a little more cardio work. He hit that turning point in round 3. Jack Hermansson landed a big straight right hand. He was throwing. Jack Hermansson won this fight with his jab and his calf kick. In the post-fight interview, Jack PYFER said, "Oh, it turned into a calf kick competition and Jack Hermansson won it." Well, no, Jack Hermansson won the whole fight. He used his experience. He weathered the first 2 rounds. He took Joe PYFER's best shots. I think it's clear, if there was any question, if Joe PYFER really hits harder than Ngannou. I don't think there's a question anymore. Joe PYFER does not hit harder than Ngannou, because I don't think Jack Hermansson could take Ngannou's hardest shot, and it looked like he took Joe PYFER's hardest shot. You know, I mean, he wobbled him a few times. He sat him down. Jack Hermansson, there was a few times he got hit with the left hook, and he kind of did that squat and stuck his butt out, and you know, you could tell he was seeing stars, and he held on. He got through the first 2 rounds, got into the third, and just put it on him. He was spamming those calf kicks, fighting behind his jab. He was keeping PYFER right at the end of his jab, and you could see it in PYFER. He would take a break. Joe PYFER cannot fight going backwards. Jack Hermansson can. He's still dangerous going backwards, but Joe PYFER is not. He cannot fight off his back foot. Anytime Jack Hermansson started to back him up, you could see the tide changed. He was not the same guy. Jack would walk him back to the cage, and Joe would stand there for a second and hesitate, and then Jack Hermansson would bam, bam, throw a couple jabs, land his big hook, and he was just piecing him up. And then you saw that exact same scenario happen on the other side of the octagon, where Joe PYFER's now leading the dance, and he has Jack Hermansson with his back to the cage, and he's getting off first and landing his shots. But he kept having these moments of hesitation. There was a point in, I believe, the third round where Jack Hermansson lands a shot, and Joe PYFER takes a big jump backwards, and he looked towards the ref like, oh, I got hit, I got poked in the eye. But I don't know if it was a piece of the glove that landed in the eye, or when he hit the shot, it might have broke his orbital bone, orbital bone. And a lot of times you'll see guys like hold their eye like they just got poked, but it's really a fracture in their orbital. And I don't know if that's what happened or not, but it certainly bothered Joe, and he never recovered from that. That, to me, was the turning point of the fight. He jumped back, he held his eye, he was like holding his hands out, doing this kind of thing, and that's when Jack Hermansson smelled blood, and he just used his experience, and he got the decision win. So, if this, I'll say it again, if this was a 3-round fight, Joe PYFER would have won. All right? If this was just another fight on next week's pay-per-view, we'd be saying, hey, what's next for Joe PYFER? Let's give him a step up in competition. I think he still deserves to be fighting right around that, top 15 to top 10 middleweight spot, but he clearly isn't elite just yet, which we know. He's young. He's, 12-2 right now. He's ranked number 20. I don't know if his ranking is going to necessarily drop from this, which he's certainly not going to move up. Again, also Tapology has Jack Hermansson ranked at number 13. That could be it. I thought he was 11. I'm not sure. Either way, if he's 13, I don't know if he'll move into the top 10 from, fighting an up-and-comer. He's not really a prospect, and he's not really a contender. I don't know what you would call him. But just an up-and-coming guy. And it was a great win for Jack Hermansson. I mean, he used his experience, weathered the first 2 rounds, landed the shots he needed to land, and then in the 5th, landed that takedown, and then that was it. Jack Hermansson is one of the best in the middleweight division when it comes to his top game in jiu-jitsu. He fights out of half guard. He loves the top half position. He's always getting arm triangles, moving into mount. He's ground and pound. He's absolutely excellent from that spot. Once he got the takedown, you could tell it wasn't in Joe. It wasn't in him. He wasn't getting out. He wasn't landing the big shot. I think, too, it's a great learning experience for Joe because he was in a fight where for the first time in his life, he landed the biggest shot he possibly could when he was fresh, and his opponent just ate it and kept coming. And, time will tell. I'll put it this way, I was much higher on Joe coming into this fight than I am, now. I'm not giving up on him. I mean, Jack Hermansson is no joke. He's legit, He is in my opinion, he is a top 10 middleweight contender. He deserves to be where he is, and Joe just isn't there yet. This is a make or break point for him. If he comes out from this fight and looks even better, I mean, he's coming off of injuries that potentially could have been career-ending. So let's keep the fortitude, learn from it, grow from it. You're going to get another fight. You win that fight, then you win the one after that and the one after that, and he could be fighting. I still think Joe PYFER has, he could be a champion one day. I'm not saying he will be, but he could be. It all depends on, how he grows from this. We're talking about the elite of the elite in the UFC. I mean, the chances of a fighter even getting a title shot are slim to none, let alone actually becoming a champ and then defending it after that, which that's a long time away. That's not, we're not anywhere there yet. I think Joe needs to put in some work on his cardio, get his 5-round MMA game up to par. This was a perfect fight for him. I think I would rather have it been 3 rounds, for Joe anyway. But it's a great learning experience. Joe is not a 5-round top 10 middleweight. He knows that. I'm sure in his mind he thinks he's good enough to be champ, which he very well may be. But he's got a lot of work to do, and we learned that tonight. So, all right, guys, that's about all I got for tonight's post-fight breakdown. Now, a few housekeeping notes. Starting to get in the groove with this. I want to find where my happy place is with making videos, going live, doing all that stuff. Now, I have a lot of work to put in. I want to start getting into editing. It's going to be a priority of me to get an intro. I want to make an intro. I want to start editing my videos, so I take out my ahs and ums and all that stuff. Not to bore you guys too much with this bullshit, but I think I'm going to do like 2 to 3 lives a week, and then I'd like to do 1 to 2 actual videos like this. I'm going to put a little time in and do a little homework for 298, which is coming up. We got some great fights. I'm so excited for next week. So we have a really nice stretch coming up with 298, 299, and 300. We still don't even know who the main event for that is going to be. So I appreciate the support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you got to tell about Spartacus MMA, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, thanks, guys. Go Bills.